Good afternoon, ladies. Welcome to my home. Ann Manacero here. I'm so excited to be bringing you some wonderful recipes that I think you will enjoy. I'll be giving you along the way some of my favorite tips and tricks. And also, I think you're going to enjoy these recipes because they're going to be perfect if you're having an Easter brunch or get together. So I think you'll really like this. So the first thing that I've done for each thing, and I love doing this. I've made a mise en place, which is basically, basically means everything in its place. So I've pre-measured and gotten together all of my ingredients so that it's ready to go. And if you're like me, when you don't do this, you might forget to put an ingredient in or something, and then you wonder why your cake didn't rise or whatever. That's never happened to me. But anyway, so this is a great thing to do, and it's a really great thing to do if you're having company, because that way your company can come over and they can talk to you in the kitchen, because we all know everybody ends up in their kitchen anyway. So they can come over and talk, and then you will still know that you've done your recipe correctly. So we're going to start off with my glasses and a zucchini and egg tart with fresh herbs, which is going to be spectacular. One of the things that I've done is just to start off, this is a great little trick to do, and you want to do this underneath your cutting board too. So I've taken a dishcloth and I've just gotten it damp and wringed it out really good. And now I'm going to put my upside down baking sheet on here, because this recipe calls for we're baking on the back of the cookie sheet, and you can roll the puff pastry out here as well. But again, so this way, when I'm rolling this out, my pan is not going to slip around on me because of that towel. And one of my favorite things also for your kitchen, a ruler, and you'll see why in 2 seconds when we start to do this. We're going to work with puff pastry. I love, love, love puff pastry. It's so easy to work with, so don't be intimidated if you haven't ever done it. It's really easy. So you just want to thaw it out. When in that package, you get 2 of these that comes like this. And so right before I want to get started, get it out, let it get to be room temperature, and now I'm going to open it up. And you'll see it has some creases in there, but it's going to be fine because we're going to roll those out. Now, this I love as well. This is actually a rolling pin, but my thing that I love about this is that it's made by Mason Cash, an English company, and this their pottery is actually made to really hold in the cold. So I keep this in my refrigerator, and normally it has some holes in the top, and you'll see why in 2 seconds, but I normally keep this with a little bit of saran wrap over the top so that I can keep my powder dry, which is flour in here, as you'll see. And this also has like a ruler on it. So if you don't have a ruler, if you're not baking, then you can use this, but you'll see why I want my ruler as well. But here's the thing that's fabulous about this. Roll out put your flour on, and I'm going to use a little pastry brush to kind of just spread this out. I want to make sure that all of the puff pastry, and you kind of get rid of any extra. So spread that around. And now the recipe calls for rolling this out to a 10 by 12 rectangle. And this stuff is very easy to work with, so you don't have to worry about it too bad. And it actually is not going to matter too much because I'm going to cut off some, and you'll see why here. So it's not perfect. So now I'm going to take my ruler. Another must-have. You must have a fabulous knife. Getting a good knife is definitely worth the expense, and because a good sharp knife is one of the best kitchen tools that you can have besides your good clean hands. Now I'm going to take this on the other side. I'm just going to cut a nice straight edge. Now the nice thing about this too, we don't have to grease or anything. This puff pastry's got plenty of fat in it on its own, and we're going to bake just right on top of here. And I just want to straighten off the top. So it's a little over 9, that's fine. And this doesn't have to be perfect, you guys. It's not rocket science. And it's not a cake, so we don't have to worry about getting all of our ingredients exactly right. So now I've got a nice clean edge. There we go. Now then, I want to take one of my eggs, and these are all, another nice thing about your mise en place too is you want to get everything at room temperature. So this has eggs in it that are at room temperature, and also my mascarpone cheese and the frozen peas that are thawed out. So now what I'm going to do is to grab a little bowl and do an egg wash. Okay, so I'm just going to do a little egg wash. Alrighty. So now, once you do this and you cut off your edges, the reason I did, like I said, I like to do two, and I have already pre-cut some of the edges on here. So that way, it doesn't matter if I can't get this to roll out exactly perfectly the way that I want it or whatever. I can now, I have my extra pieces, so it's not a big deal. So now then, what I'm going to do is to take this egg wash and I'm going to brush the edges with this. And this is going to help my puff pastry to stick to itself. It's like glue, baking glue. There we go. Now I'm going to take my other pieces and just lay them down on the edges and just gently press those down. These are cut, these strips are about 3/4 of an inch. And then now I'm going to lay it on top. Actually, I'm going to do a little egg wash on the edges so it'll stick to itself. And it's just a little bit big, but I did that on purpose. So there we go. And now to the other side. And there we go. Now I'm going to brush this again with my egg wash. Make it nice and pretty. This will help it to crisp up and to get beautiful golden brown. Nice thing about this too is that it's actually a pretty easy recipe, and you could do a lot of this ahead of time. So you could at least get this far ahead of time if you want to. All right, now I'm going to take my fork and just prick this a little bit.
Can you go back and can you lift it up so that they can see it? Like,
sure. Let me just grab a paper towel.
Like you can just like tilt it.
Okay. Okay. So here you go. Now I have my little edge around this, the puff pastry dough. So now what I'm going to do is just come in and prick the pastry dough ever so often so that we don't get big bubbles. And then we're going to do what's called dry baking the puff pastry in the beginning. That means we're basically that it doesn't have a filling. There we go. Perfect. Alrighty. And I'm going to just set this aside for a second. The next portion, we're just going to get ready the zucchini. So it calls for 2 medium zucchini. So these are nice, fresh from the farm. I pre-washed everything. One of my other must-haves in the kitchen is a little baby mandolin. I have a big one if I'm doing a lot of stuff, but these are great if you're doing little small jobs. Yes, I should be using this. Do I? No. So you just want to make nice slices. The thing about the mandolin that's nice is that now it's safer when you're trying to do thin slices like this. And also they'll be uniform, so they're going to cook at the same rate. So at the very end, when I get to the end, I do use the safety. Okay, and just push that through. All right, and I'm just going to discard that. All right. So the next part of this, we have our 2 sliced zucchinis. I'm just going to place these on another cookie sheet baking sheet. And then I have, this is 8 scallions, and so I'm just going to place these on here as well. And then with a tablespoon of salt. This is my favorite salt. It's actually has the minerals in it. It's called real salt, and it actually still has some flecks of the minerals in there. So it's really fabulous, and it's actually a very healthy thing to eat all the time, because then you're keeping your body up with the trace minerals that we're a lot of times we're lacking. So that is here. So now I'm going to salt this. I'm going to add my olive oil. There we go. And then with my hands, I'm just going to toss this and get this nice and coated. And as soon as this is coated, we're going to place this and the puff pastry into a 425-degree oven, and we're going to let it blind bake and let these kind of partially bake, and you'll see why we're doing this and just at the next portion. So I just want to kind of make sure that each piece of zucchini has a little bit of olive oil on there. Make sure I get olive oil on my skin because it's good for you. Make my fingers nice and soft. All right, whoops. Okie doke. All right, I'm just gonna place this around, let the scallions be on top. When you're roasting vegetables, this has nothing to do with this recipe, but when you're roasting vegetables at the house, don't put foil on the bottom. Everybody wants to put foil because it makes cleanup easier, but it actually inhibits your roasting. You want the vegetables or whatever it is that you're roasting, you want it to have contact with the metal. That way it will get nice and crispy for you and kind of caramelize. If you put the foil on there, it'll never happen. So just a little tip. I always have a set of these pans. I'm constantly buying new baking pans, and I have what I call a sacrificial pan, because you can't clean them perfectly all the time, and get every last little smidge out of there. So as soon as it's sufficiently disgusting, I toss it and pull out another one. So, but get that nice caramelization on your pan, gives you some extra flavor. All right, that is good enough. That's going to work. Okay. Now I'm just going to put both of these in the oven. Alrighty, and we will set our timer for 20 minutes. Okay, so while we have the other things in the oven, I'm going to pull the zucchini and the scallions out after 10 minutes, and then puff pastry will be after 20 to 25. In the meantime, I'm going to mix up the next portion. So I have here some of the room temperature mascarpone. This is 1/3 cup of mascarpone. And everything will just incorporate so much better if you let everything get to room temperature. If you try to do this when it's not, it'll be a lot harder for you. And then I have some Dijon mustard. And don't freak out. Like when I opened my mustard that was supposed to be fabulous, it had gone bad. It was French mustard that somebody had given me, and it was not good anymore. So I'm using one that has seeds in it. It's fine. Don't worry. Just use what you have. So there's the mascarpone and the mustard. And now I'm going to season with some more of my salt. This salt, this real salt, is fabulous for doing meat and stuff out on the barbecue. It's great. And it actually tastes saltier than normal salt, so you don't quite need as much. This is... I like cracked pepper, so I tend to go overboard with cracked peppers a little bit more. Alrighty, there's that. And then it says a teaspoon of lemon zest. But I also like lemon zest, so. And anytime a recipe calls for, like if it calls for something that you don't like, don't put it in there. I always like to think of a recipe as a really nice suggestion. and kind of gives me a starting off point, a going off point. The only thing that I would say to watch on something like this where it involves dough is that if you say, okay, I want to put, maybe you want to put mushrooms or something like that, you want to be a little bit careful because they could get, you know, make sure they're dry enough because they could get your pastry wet. So that's really kind of the only consideration you need to make for that. So I'm just stirring this in to see how nice and easy that went together. If the mascarpone was cold, there would be no way now. Okie dokie. So that is it for that. Not rocket science, really easy recipe so far. This is what it looks like. And we're just gonna let that go. And then when we pull the everything out, then we'll put it together and you'll see how beautiful this recipe is gonna be. Okay, so it's been 10 minutes and I'm gonna pull the zucchini and scallions out of the oven. So you can see they just look, they're just getting there. They're kind of basically steamed more than anything at this point, which is going to be perfect for our purposes. Now we're going to continue to let that go, and then in the meantime, I'm going to show you one of my favorite things, strawberry butter. This is a great thing to do. It's so easy, and you'll love this recipe. This will be a really great go-to. So all you need are some beautiful strawberries, which we just happen to have. So I'm just going to slice up a few, and this can be, you don't have to worry about what these look like. This is not, you're going to mush them up, so it does not matter what they look like at this point. And I like for my pieces of strawberry to be a little bit on the bigger side. The reason for that is that I want to know what's in there. I like to see what I'm eating. If you have been to lunch at Neiman's and you've had their strawberry butter, you'll notice theirs is all pink and it's pretty smooth. I'm not a giant fan of it, just because of the fact that it doesn't really taste like strawberry butter to me. So maybe they didn't have Manacero Farm strawberries. Just saying. So here we go. A few more. And this just depends. So this is 3 strawberries. So if you have some extras, there you go. When you are keeping strawberries, you don't want to wash them until you're ready to eat them. So because when you add water to them, it basically just makes them start to ruin. So don't wash them, just wash them as you're going to eat them. And also be sure and let them always get back to room temperature, because when they're room temperature, they're going to taste better. So now I'm just taking my fork and I'm just going to macerate a couple of these. There's a few, hello, escapee. I'm just going to do a few of these so that we'll get a little bit of juices going. So basically just a little bit. And then now I'm going to come in and I'm going to actually just mush a few more, a little bit with my hands. Best kitchen tool ever, clean hands, have to say. Alrighty. Wash my hands. I have here room temperature butter. You want to make sure that it's real butter, not margarine, nothing else. Real butter, unsalted. Always bake and cook with unsalted butter. That way, because I'm going to add salt to this, I have control over how much salt is going in. So let it come to room temperature. You can keep your butter over, actually for a couple of weeks on the countertop. So I'm just going to put this amount in. And now I'm going to come in and I'm literally going to mush this with my hands. And I'm incorporating the strawberries into the butter. Plus this is fun, I have to tell you. It's a lot of fun. So here we go, I'm just mushy. So now you can see that I want that strawberry juice to get in there, but I don't want it to be, I still want chunks of strawberries in there so that we know what's going on and know what that is, right? So now I'm going to take some Malden's flaked sea salt. It's the flaky, the real big flaked chunks of salt. And the reason that I love this, especially in here, is that the butter, while the butter will melt a little bit of the salt in there, it won't melt much. So that you can you'll bite through this and you'll have the sweetness of the strawberries and the crunch of the salt. And now this is powdered sugar. And this is just a matter of taste. So if your berries are nice and sweet, you're not going to need as much of the sugar. And so now I'm taking this little tool. Okay, so I have to tell everybody, I succumbed to television advertising and I bought the Spurtle. This woman, she used to work for Martha Stewart, and she advertises the Spurtle, and she says, it's a Spurtle, Myrtle. That's what this is, and I actually really love it because it does all the stuff she says it's going to do. So I'm mixing this in, and that's it. Boom, done. Strawberry butter's done. Then you just want to taste it and make sure that you like it. So now, this is basically how it looks. No big deal. So now, but because it's Easter and I want to do something fun, I have little egg cups. So I'm going to take my butter and I'm going to put it in to the little egg cups. And I'm telling you, if you have your little grandbabies coming over or something, they're really going to love this. Although, what adult wouldn't love that too, right? I'm just going to pile it in there. And now, look how cute that is. Wipe it off. And you want this to be at room temperature when you do it. So you can do this ahead of time, keep it in their fridge for a couple of days, and then do it. And then, but how about if they put that at each person's place setting, right? And I have a little other one, a little chickie. Again, it'd be really cute. Just fun thing, easy ways to think outside the box. It doesn't always have to be in something for butter. It can be something in something like this. Cute little eggy. There you go. Easter strawberry butter. Now, okay, so now I just pulled our beautiful puff pastry out of the oven. Isn't that gorgeous? So it's basically looks like a little picture frame there. The puff pastry, even though that you dot it with the holes, is still going to puff up because that's what it does. So I'm just taking my Spurtle and mashing some of the air out. And it cools down pretty quickly. So we just got the air out of there a little bit. And now I'm going to take my mascarpone mixture. I think this is cooled down enough that it's not going to be so blazing hot when I put this in there. So now I'm going to take my mixture. So there we go. Get this out here a little bit. Okay, actually it's good. This is melting in here a little bit. It makes it a little bit easier to get over. You just want to make sure that you have a little bit running through here. There we go. Okay, I'm calling that done. I like it. There we go. Now I'm going to take my zucchini slices that have had time to cool. And I'm going to take these and cut a few of them. If you haven't, I fully suggest taking the How to Cut Like a Pro class at Sur La Table. It's one of the best classes that I've ever taken, and you will full on, it's not expensive, but you will full on leave with an expensive knife, so just be ready. But it's perfect. They teach you how to do all these fabulous techniques. And so, and you get to practice with the knives, and because they have a great selection of knives. So I'm basically just kind of overlapping here and making a little zucchini nest. Let's save. And because we're going to cut this into 4 servings, I want to kind of leave enough to give myself room to cut. Okay, are you still rolling? Okay. All right, so essentially what I've done is made 4 little nests for the eggs that we're going to crack in here. And then I'm going to take the scallions and then put those in there as well. Just kind of sprinkle the scallions. And if you need to, you can use the scallions to kind of prop up the You'll nest if you need it. Okay, this is going to be so good and so pretty. Okay, all right, got the board cleaned up a little bit. Now I'm going to just take the peas and season them with the remaining little bit of salt that I have. Just do it right in this little bowl. Voila. So I'm taking another little bowl and I'm going to crack each egg individually into a bowl. And I'm going to flatten this out right now because I don't want that to spill out. Again, the eggs are at room temperature. And now, so this is really easy. So I've just cracked it into the bowl. And now I'm going to just gently slide each egg. And then I want to prop this up a little bit with some onions. There we go. Basically, you're just kind of keeping the egg white from running out too much. Of course, some of it's going to happen. And so I'm pouring this into my little nest. So this is perfect for Easter because we were working with nests, right? These little Easter eggs, little chickies. There we go. It's a beautiful brunch recipe. There, oh, can use that. And last one. I would say also too, that if you wanted to do this for company, because it's obviously a little labor intensive, it's easy, but it's just labor intensive. What you could do is get as far as I have with the with setting up the zucchini and the scallions, and then do this right before you're going to cook. Price it out. So now some of my egg white ran out there, and I don't want to see that. So I won't. There we go. Use a little bit of the extra. Voila, it's good. Everybody's happy. Scallions are happy. Mama's happy. And I'm going to pop that into my oven. Now I'm going to slide this off because I don't want my eggs to spill out, actually. And before I pop this in, I'm going to take the peas, and you want to be careful not to put the peas directly on the eggs. As much it's okay, you're going to get a few on there, but you don't want to dump them all on top of the eggs. This is so pretty. It's beautiful color, looks appetizing, and it looks very fancy schmancy, if I do say so. Okay, that looks like enough for me. So I obviously didn't use all of the peas. So here we go. Now if you can kind of see the way this is looking. I'm gonna set this timer 20 minutes. So for the fresh herbs and garnish, to just finish off this dish, I have some flat leaf parsley, Italian parsley, some thyme, some chives, and some dill. If you don't like these, use something else. I happen to really love rosemary, and I think rosemary would be delicious on this as well. But just so use what you like. So I'm going to, and on this one, I want to leave these big. I want it to be nice and rustic. So I'm just going to pull these leaves off, and I'm going to leave them whole like this. For the dill, I'm just going to do a nice little rough chop through the dill. I may need to take that class again, right? Because I don't know if my knife skills are that stellar, but just trust me on this. Do a little choppy, get a nice knife. So just a nice little rough chop, because I don't want to get a big mouthful of dill, I tell you that. Okay, and then for the chives, just a nice little rough chop on the chives. All right, so when we pull that out of the oven, I'm going to sprinkle this on. Okay, I think we're ready for the magic moment. We'll pull it out and see what we got. Oh, that looks very pretty. I think it's lovely. So, I would say this is probably up to you. I think I probably, for the person that made this recipe, I probably overdid the eggs a little bit, but I'm not a runny egg person, so I overdid it. So now I'm going to just take and top off with these fresh herbs. I have the fresh parsley. And, you know, if you don't happen to like, and the chives, if you don't like peas, for instance, you could use asparagus and this would be amazing. I would say there's all sorts of different things that you could do if there's a veggie that you don't like. You want to make sure that, like I said, it's just a nice suggestion. So use something that you like. And just going to finish with a little touch of cracked pepper on the eggs. And a little sprinkle of the Maldon's. Flake sea salt. And now we're going to cut it and see what we have here. I have to say this is really pretty. Very nice. Your company is going to be impressed with this dish. Oh my goodness. What is not to like about that? It's pretty nice. Alrighty then, next for the next round, we're going to do a lemon strawberry Dutch baby with ricotta cheese. Yum. So the first thing that I've done is I have a cup and a half of our sliced strawberries. And to start off, you just basically take a 1/4 cup of sugar and the zest of 1 lemon. And so I've already pre-done that, and I just mixed it up in here. And then you add a little bit of this to the cup and a half of the strawberries. And that's going to macerate in and of itself. Get another tablespoon of that. The sugar is going to cause these strawberries to kind of create their own juice. And with that lemon zest, it's going to be really amazing. And now we'll just set that aside. Same thing here. And I have all my ingredients here. This is ricotta. Again, it's at room temperature. Flour, powdered sugar, regular sugar, salt, and butter at room temperature. And the eggs also at room temperature. One of the things that I'm going to cook it in is that I'm super excited about is this beautiful pan. I love this baby. This is actually hand-forged wrought iron, made in the USA. And I saw this when I went to the last Dallas market and was obsessed with it because it has, I love these gorgeous handles, and I love it that we're going to put it in the oven and we can serve from it. It's gorgeous. These are definitely an heirloom piece that you can pass on. They have several gorgeous pieces in this gorgeous Dutch oven that I love as well. So I'm really excited to use this. And actually, my husband probably likes them better than I do because he cooks with them every day. He loves it that he can cook his bacon in there, and it actually cleans up easier than regular traditional cast iron, a cheaper cast iron. So you just wipe it out and it's good to go. So anyway, let's get this started. Okay, so for the Dutch baby, I have 4 eggs at room temperature that are already cracked into my bowl, and I'm going to now mix together the milk and the salt and my flour, and also actually before I get that going, I want to tell you about this. So this is, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of vanilla. I love this vanilla. It's Nielsen Massey. We sell this at the farm. We actually sell the Smithy hardware at the store as well. If you don't have one of these, which you should, but if you don't, you can put this in any cast iron skillet that can go in the oven. So let me get my butters melted. So this Nielsen Massey, I love this vanilla. It actually has the vanilla beans in here, and it's a thick paste. I wanted to show you what this looks like. This is beautiful. So if you have a recipe that calls for a vanilla bean, you don't need vanilla bean because it's right here. You've got the flakes in the paste already, and the measurement is the same. Even though this is a lot thicker, if your recipe calls for a teaspoon of vanilla, you're going to use a teaspoon of this kind of vanilla as well. So now let me mix this, and while this is mixing, I'm going to gradually add the flour. It should take about a minute. I'm going to slowly add in my melted butter. And you want to incorporate everything else in there before you add the butter if it's still a little bit warm so that you don't cook your eggs. Almost there. So now we're going to let this set. After you get this completely incorporated, you want to make sure that there's no big lumps or bumps in there, and then we want to let this set for a couple of minutes. While I'm letting that set, I'm going to brown the butter in my cast iron skillet. So browned butter is kind of like, I feel like it's like having a fabulous salt or something. It's kind of a secret weapon. I'm a salt freak. I have all sorts of different flavors of salt that I love. So if I want to change up things, because I tend to make the same things over again, the way I change up the flavor is I put in different flavored salts. But brown butter is another one of those secrets. If you just do some browned butter and you can add a few drops of it to here or there to vegetables, whatever, it makes it so amazing. And what browning the butter does is it's going to give your butter a really fabulous, earthy, kind of nutty flavor to it. So the main thing though with browned butter is that you cannot leave it alone. Don't answer your phone. Don't yell at your husband. Nothing. You just got to look at the brown butter. Yell at the hubby later. So I'm going to brown this. Okay. So I brought the browned butter over. Now the butter literally will go from brown to black in a heartbeat. You have to pay attention to it. So and it's going to start to smell kind of nutty smelling. But it literally, I don't know if you can tell, but it's just nice and turned brown. And there's some little sediments in the bottom. That's fine. That's to be expected. Just want to leave them like that. And now I'm going to just roll this around at the edges just carefully because I want to make sure that the edges are coated. And now I'm going to pour my rested batter. I'll pour this right in. Okay, so I just arranged a few of the strawberries that I had marinated in the lemon sugar and place those on top, just kind of, and I didn't use all of them. And then now I'm going to just sprinkle a little extra of this lemon sugar on here. Okay, what's not to like about this recipe so far? It's gonna be pretty amazing. Brown butter, strawberries, ricotta, it's gonna be fab. Love it. Now then, the biggest trick to this, resist the temptation to open the oven. That is going to cook at 450 for about 15 minutes, and we're just going to keep an eye on it. With all recipes, just kind of keep your eye on it. If it doesn't look like it's quite done, cook it a little more. It kind of just depends on your oven, unless you know that your oven is perfectly calibrated, which unless you have it calibrated once a year, it's probably not. So you kind of just keep an eye on what you're cooking. So we're not going to look, and in 15 minutes we'll pull it out and hopefully have a fabulous dessert. So while we're waiting on the pancake to cook, I'm going to make the cream. So this is a cup of room temperature ricotta and 2 more tablespoons of this fabulous vanilla. So I'm going to kind of pour it this way so you can see. See how nice and thick that is? I love it. Yummy. Alrighty. And then my little bit of powdered sugar. You can do this in a, because this is room temperature, I'm going to be able to do it in the bowl. If it was not, you would definitely need to use a mixer. But I also have this little whisk that I love. And you just basically want to get this nice and smooth, which was such a breeze because it was room temperature. There, I'm done. And then I don't need to worry about mixing my bowl or cleaning the bowl and using the mixer again. That's over. There we go. That's it. All done. Very nice. I'm going to give this a little taste to make sure it's sweet enough. Like a little more. That's perfect. Usually always like to keep some little tasting spoons so that I can take a little taste as I'm cooking. And because you want to, for most things, you want to season as you go. So that's a good way to do it. Add a little bit, and then because you can't take it out. So now we're just waiting on that pancake. Okay. Everybody, hold your breath and cross your fingers. Oh my gosh. Fabulous. This is a gorgeous Dutch baby, right? Right on time. Right on cue. That is so beautiful. So now all you do is we're cut it up, serve it with the cream and some extra strawberries. Oh, beautiful. Add some few extras of the strawberries. I added the remaining strawberries to that lemon sugar. We'll put that on there. Little dollop of the ricotta. Oh my gosh. Beautiful. Little sprinkle. And there you go. Beautiful. All right, so now for the most important thing of the day, a cocktail. We're going to do a strawberry mojito, which I think is going to be fabulous. So we have 7 strawberries that I just quartered in here, and I'm taking some limes and some fresh limes. But before I start on the cocktail, I want to show you how to do it. It's so easy. A sugar rimmed glass. So I'm going to take just a quarter of the lime and go around the glass. And here I have just a little bit of sugar and just enough to cover the bottom of the dish. And then I'm going to roll this in the sugar. This is one of those things, do it a couple of days ahead of time. It'll be fine. You'll be done. And it actually works better if you do it a couple of days ahead of time, because then the sugar will dry around the rim of the glass and will stay better while you're doing your, when you're pouring the cocktail in and everything. So now, from there, I'm just going to squeeze the limes in. Okay, so we have some fresh strawberries and then the juice of, how many limes here? 2 large limes that were quartered. Put them in here. The nice juice there. And then have some fresh mint. And what I did is I washed, before I got this off, I washed the mint and then really well, and then just wrapped it in this paper towel. And this is a great way to keep it in your refrigerator until you're ready to use it. It keeps it nice and perky. Who doesn't want perky lime, right? I mean, or mint, excuse me. So now I'm going to throw the mint leaves in. They're just full. And I don't have a muddler, so I'm just going to use this. Okay, this smells really good. Okay, so now we have the lime and the strawberries and the mint muddled. And add the sugar. And add a cup of, actually 2 cups of club soda. Where's my cup? Here it is. Yes, I know this is a dry measuring cup, but I don't know what I did with my other liquid measuring cup. Bubbles, bubbles, toils and troubles. I'm making a fabulous concoction here. There we go. That out of the way. Now for the important stuff. A cup of white rum. There we go. Now we're just gonna mix this up. Oh, it's so pretty. Then you can just tell your neighbors it's strawberry lemonade. Just want to stir this until I can make sure that the sugar's incorporated. And then you can either do crushed ice if you want, or just ice cubes, it doesn't matter. I tend to like to use bigger ice cubes on something like this, because I feel like if you use crushed ice, the ice is going to melt a lot and dilute it. Let's see if that was good. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now this is all dissolved, and I'm going to add just a little bit of the strawberry instead of the mint in the bottom of the glass, because it's so pretty. Now add some fresh ice cubes on top. I want this to be nice and cold. There we go. And I don't have one of the beautiful bar strainers, so I'm gonna have to use this. So the next thing on my list will be to get a bar strainer. That's okay. You know, this is the thing. This is it's always good to see culinary mistakes and stuff, and then you know what you need, and you also know that you don't have to have the perfect tool. You can just use what you have. So ladies, cheers. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you at the farm soon. And you can get some of your fabulous Manacero Farm strawberries, and I hope you enjoy the recipes and have a fabulous Easter.